What's up, everybody? Jose Youngs, the MMA Corner, news manager. It's been a few weeks. I think the last time we did it was the Monday. I don't even think it was a few weeks ago. It was on a Monday or Tuesday. I can't remember what, but we've had some pretty hectic schedules. But we're bringing it to you on a Thursday this time. It's September 10th. We're going to try and keep this on either Tuesdays or Mondays. But like life goes on. We've had busy weeks, especially at the corner. A lot of good stuff coming our way. So. With me, as always, is Jeremy Klump. I was about to call you Jeremy Bonner, which would have been an insult to you. What's up, Jeremy? How you doing?
Good, man. It's been a long week, but I'm excited. I'm glad we finally got the show going again.
Yeah, it's been a while. A lot of crazy stuff has happened. There was a fight card somewhere in there. We'll get to that later on. A whole bunch of fight announcements, some pretty awesome fight announcements, but. We got the football game going on right now, so I don't know how many people are going to be tuning into this, but for those of you watching live, thanks for tuning in. And for those of you watching late, I get it because it's week 1 of football and you want to watch the Patriots lose, just like me. And I hope, Jeremy, I think he's an Eagles fan.
Die hard.
All right, good. I'm from New England. I hate the Patriots, so that should tell you how terrible they are. Anyway, kicking it off, Jeremy and I watched the entirety of UFC 181, all the Fight Pass cards, all the prelim cards, all the main pay-per-view cards. Jeremy covered it, so I'll let him start off with it. First, right off the bat, the overall impression of the entire card.
One word, horrible. It was so bad. I was so bored watching fights. It's horrible to say, and everyone always tries to say, Demetrius Johnson, he needs more people watching his fights. And I'm sorry. I used to be one of the people saying it. It's not fair. That fight was boring. It was just not – he beat him up. It was not what was expected. I can understand now why they didn't hype things up. I knew it was going downhill when Joe Riggs got that DQ on Stallings, and I don't agree with the call at all. It was ridiculous, and it just went downhill from there. And I think there was one crazy fight, I guess you could call it, with Rivera and Lineker when they just went at it, but it wasn't even a fight. It was bad. It was very bad. Should have been a free card.
Yeah, and I think for those of you who listen to Josh Davis's radio station in Colorado, I kind of touched on this. I was on maybe 10 minutes, so I didn't really get to break it all down. But looking at this past summer, we started off the summer with UFC 187, which was the double headliner, double title fight with the light heavyweight and middleweight. Awesome main card. Probably one of the best main cards in UFC history. Right after that, we had UFC 188, heavyweight title fight. Pretty good fight card. Heavyweight title change is always exciting. Right after that, we had UFC 189, which in my opinion is the greatest fight card in the history of the UFC, top to bottom, which was also the double headliners, the Conor McGregor show. Then right after that, we had UFC 190. Ronda Rousey. So we had back to back just epic fight cards. And I feel like we got spoiled and the MMA gods are like, nope, you get a dud now. And I don't want to say dud because Demetrius Johnson is the best fighter on the planet right now. And I thought it was 50-45 across the board. 2 judges had it 49, gave him 49, 46, whatever. Should have been 50-45. But like I said, I enjoyed watching him fight. It's like people want to talk junk about the Mayweather-Pacquiao fight card. I actually enjoyed that fight because I do enjoy watching the best fighter alive do what they do best and basically just stifle his opponent's game. Like John Dodson did nothing to Demetrius Johnson, and everybody said Dodson was one of the men who could beat him, especially with that knockout power. And Demetrius Johnson didn't even have a scratch on him after that fight. So you do have to wade through a lot of nonsense to get to the top. And I think it's a treat to watch him fight. But if I'm the UFC, I do not put a paywall between the fans and Demetrius Johnson. Like nobody wants to spend $50, whatever it is, to watch him fight, which is a shame. I know, unless they're going to load up the undercard. I think he needs to be on Big Fox, like the first John Dodson fight. Or when he fought John Moraga, he was the main event of a Fox card. That's where he should be fighting next. Or make him the co-main event of a middleweight or light heavyweight title shot, maybe even a heavyweight title shot in Las Vegas next March. They need eyes on him, and he's not going to bring it. He needs help. And I think it'd be kind of interesting to have a heavyweight title fight as the main event, and then the flyweight title fight as the co-main event. Have the heavy and the lightest on the same fight card. I think that would be fun. It'd be kind of a cool marketing scheme, and people will come in to watch the heavyweight title fight, and then they'll get to see Demetrius Johnson because of it. But I don't think there should be a paywall in front of him. I did love the Francisco Rivera fight. That fight was very fun. That's the kind of fight that I sound like Dana White right now. That's the kind of fights, those fight fans that just like stand and bang. Like that's the definition of it. Anthony Johnson had a pretty fun fight, knockout. Your boy Paul Felder.
Stop. I didn't think you were going to talk
Your
about
boy
it.
Paul Felder lost, whether you think he lost or not. I thought he lost.
I do. I think he lost.
I think most people think he lost. That was a technical fight. It wasn't the barn burn everybody thought, but Ross Pearson thought it was a fun fight. Paul Felder thought it was a fun fight. Can't wait to see both those guys get back in. So overall, not the best, but not the worst. I think we just got a little spoiled from all those exciting fight cards in the past. What out of every fight card, every fight not named, without Demetrius Johnson and without Francisco Rivera and John Lineker, what fight stood out to you the most besides the two knockouts that I talked about and the Lineker Rivera?
I'm going to go with Corey Anderson. I was on the Parting Shot podcast, and I predicted him to win, and they both picked against me. But, Corey Anderson, the light heavyweight division needs someone like Corey Anderson to come in there. And I think that was a dominant win, and that's something that the light heavyweight division needs. And it was that was a fun fight to watch. I did leave that one out. I apologize. But I enjoyed watching that. I mean, it was domination, but it was very nice.
Yeah, I thought he has a bright future. I think he's like 5-1, 6-1, so he still has a long way to go. He got knocked out, beat Gian Vellante, so that's his only setback. Maybe match him up with Tom Watson, or I don't even know. Actually, no, Tom Watson's tied up. So match him up with somebody that can actually wrestle. I thought he was going to win. I really did, but then I was telling everybody he was going to win, and if you listen to Josh's show, I picked him to win. But then I went back to the staff picks, and I had Jan Blachowicz winning. And I just kind of hit myself in the head. I'm like, I have no idea why I did this, because on paper, I think this is Corey's fight to lose. I think he was the better wrestler, grappler, and Jan's a great striker, but he had nothing for Corey. I was a big fan of the Paige Van Zandt fight, not just because like Paige Van Zandt gets all the hype, and it does drive me a little crazy that she's not getting pushed fast. I don't want to say, but there's a lot of hype around her for how young she is. I think the UFC is building her along great, but it's a bummer that Alex Chambers blew her knee out in the second round. So someone's coming through the door. Blew her knee out in the second round, which would have been a shame. Which is a shame because she's one of those fighters that comes back and can throw on a Hail Mary submission at the end. But really impressed with Paige Van Zandt. She did have that crazy pressure, but she needs maybe not top 5, but like 6 or 7, maybe 5. Because I know for a fact Joanna and Jedrzejczyk was just sitting on the side and just going, I would put Paige Van Zandt's nose on the side. I think
you tweeted at me. You tweeted that when I was covering the fight.
Yeah, Paige Van Zandt's nose would be on the side of her face if she went up against Joanna and Jedrzejczyk. I think
UFC doesn't want that.
Absolutely not, especially for someone so young. Because if she loses, like that could be a train wreck for her career. I think Claudia would still be here. I think Carla Esparza has a shot to beat her. I think Tisha Torres has already beaten her. She's the only one to beat her. So maybe they'll give her the winner of Angela Hill versus, I think she's fighting Rose. I can't remember off the top of my head. It's probably Rose. Maybe give her the winner of that. But all around, not the best. Where does Demetrius Johnson go from here? Because he's already beaten Dodson twice, which I think Dodson is the 3rd best fighter in the division. He's beaten Joseph Benavidez twice, so I think it's the 2nd best fighter in the division. He's not going to fight John Moraga anytime soon. He's probably not going to fight Ian McCall anytime soon. John Lineker's at 135 now. Who is next in your mind for Demetrius Johnson?
Honestly, I'm stumped. I have no clue. I think they need someone that's going to help draw in fans, though. They need a big name, even if he maybe isn't one of the top guys. Just some kind of way to, like you said, he doesn't get the people watching. And I feel like no matter who he takes on, he's going to win. He's a beast, like you said, best pound-for-pound fighter. I think you did say that, or maybe I just hear Joe Rogan nonstop saying it in my head.
I think he's the best.
He's definitely a really good fighter, and, I mean, they just need someone to come in there and just put on a show with him. I want a show. I mean, I agree with you. It is awesome watching him fight. Floyd Mayweather is a perfect example. Everyone gets mad. Oh, look how he's fighting. And that's how he fights, and he wins. How can you argue someone who wins? And that's what he does. He wins. But I don't know. I just wanted to see some kind of – I don't know. I knew that was going to happen. I just wanted to see something different happen. So I think the UFC needs someone to come in there that could put a spark in a fight with him.
I have one name for you that is the only person in that entire division who can do that at this point, and he is U.S. Olympic wrestling gold medalist Henry Cejudo, who is matched up with José Formiga right now. And Henry Cejudo was offered the title fight after he beat his last fight, which I'm blanking on right now. Who he beat? He beat him in Mexico.
It was a bad fight though, right? He didn't.
It was a sloppy fight. I mean, Henry Cejudo said that the altitude really did get to him. He didn't spend enough time. So, but he's matched up with José Formiga, who is a Novo União black belt in jiu-jitsu. So he's not a pushover. He could easily just slap on a submission with that. But Cejudo, his boxing's looking crisp, head movement's looking crisp. He's a great counter striker, inside out. But he's obviously the best. He's obviously the best wrestler. But
yeah.
One of the best pure wrestlers. Maybe DC is up there, but Henry
unless he goes against John Jones.
There you go. If Henry Cejudo beats José Formiga, that's 4-0. He should get the next title shot. He's a big 125er. I mean, he struggles to get down there, and he struggled to get to 135 sometimes. If he can get past José Formiga, that is the only fight for Demetrius Johnson to take. If he beats Henry Cejudo convincingly, or better yet, knocks him out, there is nothing there for him anymore. He needs to take the winner. He should fight the winner of Dominick Cruz versus TJ Dillashaw, which is the perfect segue. You see what I did there?
That was perfect.
Perfect segue. In the biggest fight announcement of the last 2 weeks, in my opinion, is easily the return of, in my eyes, the bantamweight champion, Dominick Cruz, taking on the current bantamweight champion, TJ Dillashaw. And I say, for those of you who have, because honestly, I was thinking about this the other day. MMA has really exploded since Dominick Cruz got his initial injury. I mean, if you think about it, his last title defense was against Demetrius Johnson at UFC on Versus 6. That was on Versus in 2011. Ended up tearing his ACL. The surgery didn't go well during this season. The Ultimate Fighter is Tough 22. Dominick Cruz coached Tough 15, and the surgery didn't work. He was supposed to fight on UFC 148, which was Chael Sonnen, Anderson Silva 2. That's how long Dominick Cruz has been out, and the entire landscape is different now. And honestly, back in the day, people were kind of not mocking, but they were like, he has that irky jerky style where it's just very weird. And now that's the fight. That's the style of fight that everybody's using right now. I mean, Conor McGregor and TJ Dillashaw both use that style of fighting, but Dominick Cruz was the OG, and he got hurt his knee. Surgery didn't work. Had surgery on it again. Was going to fight the interim champion, Renan Barão. Ended up tearing his groin. They took the belt away because he'd been on the sideline too long. Gave it to Barão, named him the undisputed. TJ Dillashaw took that away, and then Dominick Cruz came back and just demolished Takei Mizugaki in, I think, a minute. Like, it was a one-sided beatdown. Tore his other ACL, not the same one. So he's had ACL surgery on both knees. And is now scheduled to finally come back and face TJ Dillashaw. So he never lost the title. So, and in my mind, he's still the champion. But I can't name him the undisputed without him beating TJ or TJ beating Dominick. So I've been talking a while about this because I'm excited.
My knees hurt now.
Dominick Cruz is an Arizona fighter, so ties to me. I'll let you kick it off. How excited are you, and who do you think? Initial prediction. We'll talk about it more when the fight gets closer. What is your initial prediction?
Prediction for the fight. I got Cruz. I am a big fan, and I think what's great. I'm a big media guy. I love seeing him on TV too. He always is sparking trouble on TV. I love that. It's hilarious. But who'd you say the best pound-for-pound fighter in the world was?
Demetrius Johnson.
And he beat him last time he fought him. I think Cruz is a beast. Injuries happen. I hate I'm a guy who used to get injured a lot back in the day, and I hate people that are like, oh, come on, why are you getting injured? You can't control that. That's just bad luck, It's not that he doesn't train right sometimes. I think it was Dana White who says some guys train wrong. That's why they get injured. Sometimes injuries happen. He just has had some crappy luck, man. Both ACLs, groin. But he's going to come back. He's going to beat Dillashaw. And I cannot wait to see him on Fox Sports 1 then run at his mouth after he wins the belt.
Yeah, if anybody watches, Jeremy says he likes to spark trouble, but I just think he's keeping it real. I mean, if Michael Bisping makes a bogus prediction, Dominick Cruz would be like, Michael Bisping, that is a bogus prediction. And here's why that is a bogus prediction. And he, in my opinion, is the best fighter turned analyst in the entire sport. I mean, the way he breaks down fights is unparalleled. He is the best. He's been doing it forever. He makes a great commentator, but that is an angry man. Every single broadcast, he is just pissed at something. And he needs to get in the cage. He needs to punch someone in the face. TJ Dillashaw is the guy to do it. The rivalry is there between camps. If Dominick Cruz beats TJ Dillashaw, that is one of the best stories in all of MMA history, that the injured champion comes back and reclaims his title because he deserves it. And then you can set up, if Urijah Faber beats Frankie Saenz, another Arizona fighter, Urijah Faber, Dominick Cruz 3. That is the fight to make. That is the money fight right there. And who knows? Maybe he'll move up and fight Conor McGregor because that would be a fun fight. But we're moving up. We don't. That fight is taking place in Boston. I'm gonna try and be there. That's my home neck of the woods. But in the co-main event, I don't know if it's official yet, but I'm pretty sure that it's going to happen. Is Eddie Alvarez, former Bellator lightweight champion, is going to fight Anthony Pettis, former UFC lightweight champion. I think this fight is a long time in the making. These are both former champions. Eddie Alvarez is obviously top 5. Anthony Pettis is top 5. I think this is awesome, and this just shows you the depth of the weight of the lightweight division. Anthony Pettis is coming off a one-sided mauling. He didn't win a second of that fight against Rafael dos Anjos, and Eddie Alvarez. You might not have won against Gilbert Melendez. It's very controversial, but yeah. I am so excited for this fight. What are your initial thoughts?
I'm excited as well, but every time I hear Eddie Alvarez now, I'm pretty sure he's the guy who blew his nose when he broke it, right? And it makes me sick in my stomach thinking about that. But I'm excited for it. I know you and I wanted someone else against Pettis, which I wish that fight would happen, and that was Nurmagomedov. That would have been a better fight. But, this is what they booked. It's co-main event. I think it's good for Pettis. I think Pettis is going to win. I don't want to say it's a stepping stone. That's kind of not really fair to Alvarez in any bit because he's obviously a great fighter. But I think Pettis is a little better than him. I think Pettis will get the victory, and it'll be good for him to come back. And then you have endless opportunities to match him up with guys in that division.
I'm really excited in terms of striking coaches. It doesn't get much better than Duke Roufus versus Henry Hoof, two of the best kickboxers out there. And I am just so excited for this fight. I think these two both of these guys could be champion, but honestly, anybody in the top 6 could be champion of that division. I think this is a number 1 contender fight. I think if Khabib wins, he will fight the winner of Cowboy versus RDA, and then I think the winner, and then maybe Eddie Alvarez versus Pettis will fight. Who knows? But this could vary. If maybe Khabib just has a very boring fight, too much ring rust, and then Anthony Pettis comes and just wheel kicks Eddie Alvarez into oblivion, and then they make the title. I would not be. Both of these fights could be number 1 contenders. Because say Tony Ferguson submits Khabib. Like, who knows? So, moving on. That is the co-main event. Let's pull up my notes. We don't know if we talked about it. It was been so long ago, but I don't believe we did. I don't believe it was official yet. Joanna Jedrzejczyk is not going to be fighting Claudia Gadelha at UFC 195.
That is what we talked about. We talked about her fighting her, not the actual fight.
Yeah.
I remember now.
When we first talked a few weeks ago, we talked about Claudia was probably not going to get the next shot at JJ. JoJo, whatever you want to call her. I call her Joanna Jedrzejczyk because that's her name, and I can proudly say I pronounced that last name correctly, unlike most of the world. So I'm going to say it as much as I can. Joanna Jedrzejczyk is going to fight Valerie Letourneau at UFC 193. UFC 193 in Australia. Co-main event of Ronda Rousey. I'll let Jeremy take this one first. Are you surprised? And does Valerie deserve it?
I'm going to call her JoJo. I think that's better for me. I murder names, man. But it's one of those fights, again, that I just look at, and I don't really agree with it, I guess. She's coming off decision victory. She hasn't really proved anything crazy. I mean, JoJo's, 2 fights in a row now with knockouts, I think? Yeah. I just kind of feel like it's not going to – you got Ronda Rousey fighting Holly Holm, which, again, I don't agree with. I think – I don't know. Maybe it's just hard to pick fights in the women's divisions, but I'm not a fan of them. I don't know why. I just feel like she's going to knock her out early, and it's going to be one of those things that we watch and we're like, oh, well, we figured that would happen, but whatever. Maybe you disagree. I apologize, but.
And I mean, I do agree. I think apparently Claudia has an injured hand, and Dana White really wanted Joanna and Ronda on the same card, and I guess Claudia wasn't going to be ready to go in November and could only fight in January. They just needed someone else, and Tisha Torres might have been a good one. She's riding a win streak, but they needed someone, I think, that doesn't have a fight lined up, is coming off a semi good performance. It has a 3-fight win streak, and I just think they picked her. But I honestly, as soon as Paige Van Zandt won, I pulled up the rankings, and I was like, who should she fight next? And I was like, oh, Valerie Letourneau would make an awesome opponent for Paige Van Zandt. And then I was like, oh, wait, Valerie Letourneau is fighting for the title. Whatever. I think Joanna Jedrzejczyk wins. I just think she's too dominant, so that'll set up the fight with Claudia. Who knows? I just think this is a wash. Oh my God, my freaking iPad keeps. Okay, we're gonna talk about one fight that I'm excited for, a bantamweight fight, and that is Thomas Almeida versus Anthony Birchak. Two prospects, kind of. I don't know how your familiarity with these two, but I'm excited for this one. Thomas Almeida is like 20-0 or 21-0 or something crazy.
How was he? 24, I think.
Yeah, he's super young. He's from Brazil. Will fight anywhere. I mean, he fought at Montreal. He fought at UFC 189 and had that unbelievable flying knee knockout against Brad Pickett. Brad Pickett was tuning him up in that first round. So, awesome fighter. I know Anthony Birchak. He's an Arizona fighter, former MFC champion. Lost. It was supposed to fight Joe Soto at UFC 177 before Barao got hurt. And then they took Joe Soto and put him in the title shot against TJ. I thought it should have been Anthony. I think Anthony, and then Anthony showed he's an even better fighter. It took TJ 4.5 rounds to finish Joe Soto. It took Anthony Birchak like 2 minutes to just knock his head off. Super exciting. I don't know how familiar you are with these two, but are you excited? And are you happy to see that the UFC isn't trying to protect prospects? They're matching them up in the way I think they should.
Well, they're trying to protect Paige Van Zandt, but
that's true.
Other than that, yeah. I'm not fully familiar with Birchak as much as Almeida. I mean, I know that he has 3 fights in the UFC. He's 3-0. I might be wrong. I think 3 of them were bonuses, but it might have been 2.
I think his first fight was a fight of the night, and then his next 2 were like performance of the night.
All right, so then I didn't know if I was right. I'm glad that you know that. I think 3 of them were then. I mean, he's a prospect. I think his last fight, he was 23, turned 24. I like that they're doing this. I think it's awesome. We'll see who's the better prospect, who's going to move up, and I got Almeida by knockout.
Yeah, and I don't know who to pick in this because Birchak has a chin. Almeida has a chin. You saw that against Brad Pickett. Both of them are, I think, like as much as we talk about Almeida's knockout power, he's slick on the ground. Like he can scramble great. Birchak is a solid on the ground. So I am a huge fan of the UFC, like matching up 2 up-and-coming guys, but at the right moment. Like when they did with Ryan Bader and John Jones, they were both like 5-0 in the UFC and like under 4. I say like John Jones lost to Matt Hamill. Technically, he did. I think they just met at the perfect time. I think this is another perfect time there. Neither one is going to have a huge stock drop because they're so young, but I'm really excited. I want to say Anthony. I just think he has a better chin, and I would have picked Almeida initially, but Brad Pickett landed some clean punches on him in that fight before Almeida threw that flying knee. And now that cat's out of the bag, Anthony can look for those crazy punches. So I'm going to go with Birchak. Might be a little biased, but we'll move on.
Nothing wrong with that.
Exactly. Also, speaking of Team Alpha Male, a little while ago with Dillashaw, Urijah Faber is going to fight Frankie Saenz, another Arizona fighter. Initial thoughts, are you excited, and who do you think is going to win?
Anytime Urijah Faber's fighting, I'm excited. I'm a big Urijah Faber fan. Just like for Cruz, I like Urijah Faber out of the cage too. He is funny. He cracks me up. His interview with Conor McGregor on Fox Sports 1, he was just so funny, everything he was saying. I honestly think he's awesome. I got Urijah Faber winning. I'm a big fan. See, now here's the bias. I think he's going to dominate him. I really do. Sirwan Kakai almost beat what's his name?
Frankie Saenz.
Yeah, he almost beat him. It was a split. I had him beating him. I'm a big Sirwan Kakai fan though, or however you say it. I'm probably murdering that too because of Titan FC. I do a lot of work with them, but I think he beat him. So I don't know. I think Urijah Faber is going to.
I do think Urijah is going to win. And I think Frankie Saenz' first fight was against Nolan Tickman at the UFC in Maine, the Bader OSP. I was at that fight. And I believe Frankie Saenz was the very first fight on the entire card, so pretty much no one saw it. But he looks pretty good, and I was like, okay, this guy's good. He's probably going to have a few more fights. And then he fought Yuri Alcantara in Brazil. And I was like, Yuri Alcantara is the man. Like, I was, like, leading his bandwagon. I love that dude. As I thought he was a potential title. He still is a title contender, but I thought he was like, he beats Frankie Saenz, maybe gets the rematch against Urijah Faber, and then bam, he could get the title shot. Frankie Saenz just mollywops him, and he was just all over him in Yuri Alcantara's backyard. And right there, I was like, man, Frankie Saenz is legit. His wrestling, I don't know how great, like because Yuri Alcantara is unbelievable on the ground, unbelievable off his back, and Frankie Saenz just like muffled him. It was amazing to watch. I think that was the Frank Mir Bigfoot card. Not 100% on that, but I still think Uriah is going to win. But Frankie Saenz did a lot to impress me in that. And initially, I guess Urijah Faber was going to fight Brian Caraway. They offered that as the main event. Do you like that fight better? And do you think that would have been a good main event?
I don't know. It's tough. I mean, I'm a big Urijah Faber fan. That's what hurts me. So I always think he's going to win. But I don't know.
Well, I'll say this.
So
that fight was according to Urijah Faber, they offered him Brian Caraway in the main event of the Tough 22 finale. The current main event is Frankie Edgar versus Chad Mendes. Do you think this is a dumb question? Do you think that Urijah Faber? I think we can both agree Urijah Faber and Brian Caraway is not a better main event.
I think we can agree on that.
Yeah, I think everybody outside Brian Caraway, Misha Tate, and Urijah Faber. Maybe actually no, Urijah Faber is probably like, yeah, give Chad the main event 5 rounds because Urijah Faber 5 rounds, that's a bad dude. Anyway, moving on. I'm a big jiu-jitsu fan. I don't practice jiu-jitsu, but
this is going. I know where you're going.
You know where this is going because I talk about it all the time. I sit next to this guy at my day job. And all I do is talk about this fight. I've been talking about this fight for a year. Gunnar Nelson is going to fight Demian Maia. It makes my skin crawl when ref calls for stand-ups, when fans boo, grappling. It drives me crazy. I watched UFC 190 at a public place, and I was like, I had to leave. I couldn't handle it. How excited are you? And I don't know if you like jiu-jitsu as much as me. Maybe you do. Maybe just not. Maybe just as much. But I'm excited. Are you excited?
I am excited, especially because I picked Neil Magny to dominate Maia, and it was just BJJ. It was amazing.
It was a very public clinic.
It was amazing. I watched the fight, and I just sat there like, wow. And Neil Magny is no slouch either with his BJJ. It was amazing. It was awesome to watch. I don't care who you are. If you thought that fight was boring and you don't like people laying on the ground and tapping you, that is hot. That was a great fight. That was amazing to watch. I'm excited. I have a little note here. I got Maia in the first round by submission.
Wow.
I do. I don't know why. Watching him dominate Magny. I know you probably disagree with me now off that reaction, but I don't know why. He's
for years, I had people who are just starting to watch him for years. Like Demian Maia very well could be the best submission specialist in the all of mixed martial arts. I mean, Royce Gracie consistently names him the best or his favorite to watch. And for years, he was a middleweight title contender. He did challenge for the title in a very controversial main event. We're not even going to talk about that fight because you bring that up to fight fans, and they get sad faces. Anyway. He would pull guard. He did a lateral drop to Chael Sonnen and choked him out with a submission with a triangle choke. Beautiful stuff. Beautiful, smooth. They fell in love with his hand. That was the only problem. Got into a kickboxing match with Chris Weidman, obviously lost, dropped to 170s, looked like a world beater. And until that fight against Robbie Lawler, I honestly think Demian Maia gave Roy McDonald the best fight. He may have lost, but that was a great fight. Wasn't out of it. That was fight of the night. One of the best fights of the year. Gunnar Nelson, he has equally. He just submitted Brandon Thatch with a straight right, and then while most people would go in for the kill with ground and pound, he just slapped on that rear naked choke like it was nothing. I think these are two of. I think Demian Maia is the best, and Gunnar Nelson is definitely in the mix for second or third best in that division. And like Gunnar Nelson said on his Facebook, I don't know if anybody likes him or friends with him or whatever. He posts that thing and he goes, "Finally, an opponent that's not afraid to hug me." And meaning, if they go to the ground or they clinch up, Demian Maia is not breaking away because that is his bread and butter. And he's been training at King's MMA. He does train in Brazil, so his stand-up is getting crisp. The jiu-jitsu world could just explode at this. Like when Frank Mir submitted Antônio Nogueir with that, when he broke his arm, the jiu-jitsu world exploded. That is this for the welterweight division, in my opinion, or maybe even for Doom and Nogueir. But I love this fight. Moving on.
Who do you got? Who do you got?
I have Demian Maia. I always pick against Demian Maia, and he always wins. So I'm going to pick Demian Maia this time. But actually, no, I'm the only one in the entire MMA Corner staff to pick Demian Maia to beat Ryan LaFleur back a few months ago. So I'm going to stick with it. I picked Demian Maia to beat Neil Magny. I picked Demian Maia to beat Ryan LaFleur, and he won. And every time I pick against him, he still wins. So I'm gonna pick him again, just to keep it rolling. I think it's a great fight, but we'll come back to that. We're gonna jump to the featherweight division. Last time we talked about Max Holloway and how amazing he is. Yeah. He has a new fight. He's gonna fight Jeremy Stephens, I believe at UFC 194, right? In the Vegas. I believe it's UFC 194, the Conor McGregor fight. So they're going to put those two featherweights there again. So say Jose Aldo or Conor McGregor breaks his leg, can't fight. Throw Frankie Edgar in there, move Max Holloway into the main event against Chad Mendes. So they're putting all these featherweights right here. I like the fight. A little dangerous for Max Holloway because Jeremy Stephens is, like, I think 1-2 in his last fight, and he just knocked out Dennis Bermudez with a flying knee.
Yep.
Yeah, beautiful fight. So real dangerous fight for Max Holloway because Jeremy Stephens may have lost 2 of his last 3, but they were really close fights that he lost. And honestly, some people might think that he beat Charles Oliveira. But anyway, do you think this is a smart matchup for Max Holloway? And your early thoughts, early predictions?
Well, I like it for Max Holloway. I think he's a star. I talked about it last time. And I'm not a fan of, if you're a star, the quote, be the best, got to beat the best. I want to see it. I want to see Holloway beat guy. I don't think he should be scared of anyone. I think he should go into every fight. There should be no scary matchups for him for the UFC. Put him in against whoever's there. And I like the idea that, now if someone gets injured, he moves up. That's awesome. Put him in against the top guys and let him go. But my prediction, based off 100% bias, Jeremy Stephens and I had an interview set up. I actually got out of work 2 hours early to do the interview, called him, didn't answer, texted him to let him know, like, hey, who I was again, even though he told me we were going to do the interview. Doesn't call me back. I get a call the next day from his agent, and he says, yeah, he doesn't want to do the interview anymore. And couldn't even text me to let me know that I missed 2 hours of work, so I'm going Max Holloway by TKO in the first round. And that's bias.
Ooh. Okay, so you have a legit reason to pick against Jeremy Stephens. First of all, I 100% agree with you that if you think you're the best, you should just fight. Like, you shouldn't turn down any fights. If Max Holloway thinks that he is the best featherweight in the entire world, he should just fight Jeremy Stephens now. He'd probably fight him eventually. Like, it's when people were talking about, like, oh, Conor's never fought a wrestler and all that stuff. I'm like, guys, even if he wins 30 straight fights and wins the belt and just keeps fighting these strikers, and then he loses to a wrestler, like, he's going to fight a wrestler eventually. Max Holloway will probably have fought Jeremy Stephens eventually. Just fight him now. If you think you're the best and you want to stay active, fight him now. And for all we know, in a few months, when the UFC's like, oh, we're going to do UFC Hawaii, Max Holloway did us this big favor by taking this dangerous fight against a guy who's 1-2 in his last 2 fights. Max Holloway, main event, UFC Hawaii. Better yet, co-main event, in my dream world, BJ Penn comes out of retirement and headlines. Frank against Frankie, your part 4. Do it. I don't care. Or better yet, bring Kenny Florian. Bring Kenny Florian out of retirement. Do BJ Penn versus Kenny Florian 2 as the headliner Hawaii. So, and right off the bat, sign me up to cover that fight card. So I think Max Holloway is going to win. I think it'll be a decision because that fight against Cub Swanson was that fight was amazing. I mean, if you watch, shout out to Jack Slack, probably the best analytical journalist out in the world right now. He did an amazing breakdown of that fight, and that just amazing. Max Holloway does amazing things. He's super young. I think he wins. Don't know. I'm going to say decision because it's only a 3-round fight. If it was a 5-round fight, maybe he comes in the 4th or 5th and finishes. But I'm going to say decision, 3 rounds. We're going to jump from the UFC. We're going to talk about Bellator for a second. And Melvin Manhoef has a new fight against Hisaki Kato. And if anybody doesn't know who Hisaki Kato is, I don't blame you. Yeah. Melvin Manhoef, you probably do know because he's one of the scariest individuals in all of MMA. Probably one of the most violent. I don't think he has any decisions. He's one of those guys that's go out on your shield. So he's either going to punch your head into oblivion or his head's going into oblivion. Very fun fighting style. Muay Thai, kickboxing. Knocked out Mark Hunt. And this is a middleweight fight, by the way. And Melvin Manhoef has a knockout victory over Mark Hunt. So think about that one. Was putting it on Robbie Lawler before he got knocked out. So super scary guy. Used to come out in a dog collar barking. Hisaki Kato knocked out Joe Schilling. And in my opinion, the most shocking victory of the year. Because Joe Schilling is the glory, like one of the best kickboxers in the world, like top 5 glory kickboxers in that division. Fought Hisaki Kato and just got knocked unconscious. It wasn't like a finish, like he was asleep by a Superman punch. And Hisaki Kato was even like, I knew I was supposed to lose. Like, that's the fights I like. Like, just come in, nothing to lose, and he just knocked out the best kickboxer probably in Bellator. Was a dual sport kickboxing MMA. Joe Schilling has a knockout victory over Melvin Manhoef. So if Matt of the MMA Corner was on there, he knows a lot about Joe Schilling. Interviewed him a bunch of times, but I'm pretty excited. I'm interested. This is a main event. Probably not going to make it out of the first round with Melvin Manhoef fighting. But do you like the fight, and do you like what Bellator is doing with the fact that this isn't really a number 1 contenders fight, and it's not really it's not a title fight. Like, neither of these guys are going to fight for the title. Do you like what they're doing by making these kind of headliners?
Honestly, no. I just, like you said, I'm not really familiar with them at all. Maybe that's my fault. Maybe I need to, learn some more about those guys. But I just feel like you just said, it's not going to go out of the first round. He's going to win by knockout. I'm not even going to say it. I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to watch it. I won't unless someone won't step up for the MMA Corner. And if any of you are listening and you guys aren't covering events, start covering events.
Agreed.
We're all sick of doing all of the same people. But if I have to cover it, then I'll watch it. If not a chance I'm watching it. I'm sorry.
I like Melvin Manhoef a lot. I think he's one of them. His brain is probably 100 years old right now. I mean, he can't really take a punch. He got knocked out in his last fight against Alexander Shlemenko, but that eventually got overturned because Shlemenko is now banned for 3 years for steroids. Got knocked out against Joe Schilling. So that's back-to-back. Like, and when I say knockout, like, they are just violent. Like, he's like sprawled out on the canvas asleep, and the ref is had rubbing salt in his nose. Like, he was out. It wasn't like he was done. And I'll probably watch it. I try and watch it anytime Melvin fights. Hisaki Kato has the storyline where he knocked out Joe Schilling, but I think Melvin's going to win. I don't want to say it was a lucky punch because Hisaki Kato obviously has the credentials to fight Joe Schilling, and he did knock him out. So I don't think it was a lucky punch. But I don't know if Melvin Manhoef even really does game plans. His game plan is usually put his fist in the back of his opponent's head as much as possible. But I'm going to say Melvin Manhoef, just better fighter in my opinion. But moving on, we're going to talk about something other than fight announcements. We're going to talk about something that is very sad. We're also very happy, and that is Antônio Nogueir, big knock, has retired. Were you surprised? I'm going to ask you 3 questions. Were you surprised? Do you think it was the right decision that it came now? And what is your best memory of Big Nog? Whether it's in the UFC, whether it's in training, whether it's in Pride, whatever. You go.
All right. So first question, was I surprised?
Are you surprised? Yeah.
Not surprised. I think, if someone Manhoof, you just said, has a 100-year-old brain.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to know how old his brain is. I mean, he's fought a lot in his life. And the next one was, do I think it was the right move?
Like, do you think it was the right move to retire now?
Why not? I mean, I feel now I'm going to forget names. I'm horrible at this. Who retired right after they won their first fight in the UFC? What was his name again?
I can't remember. Frankie Perez.
Right. All right. Yeah. See, I mean, you can retire whenever the person feels they're ready to retire. I'm fine with it. I just interviewed Rick Hahn for Titan FC, and he might retire after this fight. And he said, "Oh, I'm quitting." I said, "You're not quitting. If you want to step away from the sport, for someone who sits on their couch and watches you fight, whatever you want to step away from it, good for you, man. You deserve it." Best memory. I don't know. That's hard. What would you go best memory? Maybe
I'll finish it.
Sylvia victory.
That's a tough one. So right off the bat, I'm not surprised at all. I think he should have retired. There's nothing left to prove for him. I mean, he just likes competing. I mean, he has trained
belts everywhere.
He has belts everywhere. He's trained Anderson Silva. He's trained Lyoto Machida. He's trained Junior Dos Santos. He's trained and Bigfoot Silva has his logo tattooed on his arm. Like, that should just tell you how influential. I mean, if you read Twitter when they announced the fight and you read Twitter, every single Brazilian fighter was was sad. Like, they were crying. Like, this is a legend. And if you only watch that fight against Stefan Struve, and you probably talk trash about how he's slow and it was just out of place, I'm like, I feel bad for you, because if Antônio Nogueir walks into any gym, people are going to put down what they're doing and just worship him. I think it should have come a little earlier. I thought it should have come after that Roy Nelson knockout. I don't think he even should have taken the Stefan Struve fight, because that Roy Nelson knockout was bad. I mean, he was just starched, his toes locked up, his arms were locked up. It was just a sad scene. It was in Abu Dhabi, but he stepped up and main evented that fight. My best memory, he was the interim champion. That fight against Randy Couture was unbelievable. 2 of the best heavyweights ever fighting, but was the former Pride champion too, lost to Fedor. But my best memory is his fight against Bob Sapp in Pride, which I believe to this day has the highest attendance in the history of mixed martial arts. I think over 100,000 people were watching that fight, and they headlined it. And it wasn't even a title fight. It was just like one of those freak show fights that Pride used to like to do. And if anybody doesn't know, Bob Sapp is probably the least technical fighter around. He is just massive. He's 350-plus pounds of just solid muscle. And he would just bulldog you and land top you and throw you around. Nogueira was 220. Basically was outweighed by 120 pounds. And Bob Sapp was just rolling him around, throwing him down, just Donkey Konging him. Was not beating him up, but Nogueira was just too small. It'd be like if Kane fought George St. Pierre. It was that big of a difference. And Nogueira just threw on an armbar, submitted him in front of 100,000 Japanese fans, and the place went nuts. So I think that fight sums up his career. Gets knocked down, gets beaten up, and just comes out of nowhere and submits him. I think that fight perfectly summarizes his entire career, and that'll be my favorite event. But now, for some of you who don't know, there is another non-MMA event happening this weekend. I don't know if Jeremy probably knows.
Money.
Floyd Mayweather is fighting Andre Berto this weekend. And I was talking to some people, and they were like, I didn't even know that fight was happening. And I go, I don't blame you in the slightest. But you know what? We're going to give our predictions for this fight. We're gonna talk about it. We know more than MMA. If there's a big glory fight, we'll talk about it. So we'll talk about Floyd Mayweather, because he is the best pound-for-pound boxer of the last 10 years. So I think he deserves a few minutes of airtime on the MMA Corner News Show. So I'll start with Jeremy. We didn't talk about this when it was first announced. Do you think Andre Berto was the right choice? And who do you think wins?
Well, obviously, I think Floyd Mayweather's going to win to start, and I'm a big Mayweather fan. I talked about it before. You mentioned it too. Everyone hates how he fights. I don't care if you hate how he fights because he wins. And if you win, you can hate it all you want, but he wins. I think I'm with a lot of people. Maybe, I don't know about you, but everyone didn't want to see this fight. They didn't think that this was the fight he should go out on. I saw an interesting article. I forget where it was. It might have been Bleacher Report or someone like that. They mentioned whose record is he going to break now to go 40 or tie to go 49-0?
Rocky Marciano from New England.
He beat a Hall of Famer for his 49th win. And Floyd Mayweather's fighting a guy that everyone's like, oh, wow, cool. Floyd's going to win his 49th fight. So I'm a Mayweather fan, but come on, man. Really? That's just – you're going to take a toss-up, an easy win like that? I don't know.
Yeah, and for those who don't know, Floyd Mayweather said he's going to retire after this and go out 49-0. I do not think he's going to retire. I think he is going to beat Andre Berto. I thought he should have fought Amir Khan. Who knows, but I don't know why he didn't take that. I think that fight draws way more attention because you get all of the England, because Amir Khan is from the UK. That would have brought all those fans in. I think he should have fought Khan. I think he would have beat Khan. I think he's going to fight one more time and retire at 50-0. I think he rematches Manny Pacquiao. I think he rematches Manny Pacquiao, goes 50-0, and puts to bed that whole nonsense of Manny Pacquiao had a torn shoulder. I mean, I do get it, and I think Floyd Mayweather wins no matter what. But put that to rest. Go out 50-0. Be the only professional fighter in any sport to go out 50-0 on top and then finish it. Because no one talks about this, but all of Floyd Mayweather's best fights, I think, are in May. And I know he fought Canelo in September, but I believe he fought Oscar De La Hoya in September, but May, I think, is just better. I mean, it's summer. It'll be more exciting. More people are going to want to go to Vegas in May for Cinco de Mayo. He always fights around that weekend. I want to see him fight. I don't care if he fights Manny Pacquiao. I want to see him fight Gennady Golovkin. He's not going to fight Gennady Golovkin. I think Gennady Golovkin beats Floyd Mayweather. I think he just kills him. He's just way stronger, way faster. And I think maybe 6 years ago, Floyd Mayweather would win, but not Floyd Mayweather now. He does that weird thing where he puts his arm up, so you have to punch his elbow and break your hand. But I think we both agree Floyd Mayweather wins. I'm going to say decision. Did you say decision? Decision. I think he wins. I think he sweeps. I think he's going to have a minimum scorecard. I think he's going to win 117 maybe, however they score it or whatever. We're going to finish it. We're going to finish a few minutes early. Kind of a slow week. Anything else that you want to talk about before we call it a wrap here on the MMA Corner News Show? It's been a long week for me, so I'll just end it with, we talked about it already, but I'm still thinking about it. I'm excited. Cruz coming back, man. I'm telling you, he's going to beat Dillashaw. It's going to be awesome. And I am so looking forward to turning on Fox Sports 1 after he wins the belt and just listening to him talk. Like you said, he tells it how it is. I think he picks sometimes like he did for the Ultimate Fighter show when they had the two guys when they fought each other. He'd always be like, "Oh, you thought you beat him?" And it was always funny. I can't wait. Cruz is back. Fans should be excited. Injuries suck. He's past them now. I'm excited. And I'm going to say, for those of you who, this is the longest we've had between UFC fight cards right now is between UFC 191, and it's the Josh Barnett-Roy Nelson fight card, correct? The Japan card. So this is the longest time we have between fight cards this whole year. But we have Invicta this weekend, Invicta FC. And I'm going to shout out Megan Anderson, who is on that undercard, not the main event. I think if she is a future star. I mean, if you don't know how she looks, she's tall, she's fit. She's not the typical what you see fighters, but she is just covered in these beautiful sleeve tattoos, real nice artwork on her arms, and she says it how it is. Give her a follow on social media because she is a fun follow on social media. I think she's a future star. She's 4-1. I can't even remember what weight class she's in, but she's exciting. So I'm going to shout her out. No UFC this weekend, but watch Invicta because they deserve it. All the women, we always talk about the Ronda Rousey breaking doors down for the women. But what you have to keep that trend going is to watch the other woman, not named Ronda Rousey, and not in the UFC. Are you gonna watch it? Are you gonna watch it, Jeremy? Or are you gonna try and watch it?
I will not be able to watch it. I'm busy this weekend. I got stuff. We got a baby on the way, man.
It's true. I was about to say, Jeremy is going to be a dad soon, so maybe in a few weeks we will have is it a boy or a girl? Do you know?
It's a girl. It's a girl.
We're gonna have a girl, the mascot of the MMA corner. We're gonna have a little girl on the show maybe in the future.
Aubrey Lee Klump. That's her name.
There you go. So Jeremy might be on daddy duty in the future. So we're gonna
I'll hold her while I do. I'll put that little thing on and have her sit there.
There you go. Straight, like, perfect. Love it. Straight out of the Hangover.
Hangover.
So we're gonna sign off now. We're gonna try and bring this back maybe Tuesday because it's not that long in between. But maybe Fedor gets announced this weekend. Maybe the UFC just throws a nugget out there for all us journalists looking for something to write. And if that happens, you better be damn sure we're at least going to do a 30-minute show Monday or Tuesday. So for Jose Youngs, Jeremy Klump, we'll see you next week, guys.
Take care.